Oh, yes, I am so glad that I left it really late to do a video today. Hi guys, and welcome to the Great Guild Wars 2 Countdown. A blog post just came up from ArenaNet about all the stuff that's going to be going on in the next beta weekend event. Literally just read it. It sounds really, really good. So we'd heard, obviously, that Sylvari and the Asura were going to be playable, and we'd seen a couple of videos. But aside from that, ArenaNet hadn't really come out with yet a full list of all the changes and upcoming stuff in the next beta, like they did between beta weekend event 1 and 2. Well, that just came up. There is a link in the description if you want to check it out. That's what I'm going to be talking about on the video today, and in particular the feature for today can be any of the ones that they've just announced, which sounds really cool. In particular, I'm thinking of going with sentries for World vs World, so I'll explain that in a second. But to kick off, to explain what is probably in the title, someone very kindly, that someone being Soulflame92, has messaged me on YouTube and given me 25 beta keys to give away to people. I actually wasn't planning on doing any kind of giveaways or anything like that. I'd just kind of been a bit distant from it, but it seems like there's so many keys and stuff going around, and this person's been so kind giving them to me that I couldn't really resist. So if you are watching me, or you know someone that isn't playing the game at the moment, you yourself might not be playing the game, or you just fancy having some spare keys to show to your friends to get them in the game or something, then maybe you can grab one of these keys off of me. As I say, there are 25. Thanks very much to Soulflame for it. I was thinking of what I could even do for the giveaway. Some people have been doing competitions and other people have been doing various things. To tell you the truth, don't really care about making anyone jump through any hoops. Just if you want one of the keys, then just leave a comment and I'll just pick some random people and you'll get a personal message with the key in your inbox. But please only do ask for a key if you really want one, because I almost feel like I should tell people to do something just so that you know that the people that are trying to get the key actually do want it. So don't go for it if you don't really want it. Let's actually make sure they go to you somehow. But yeah, I'll just give away the keys. One thing that Soulflame did have an idea of was these little intro things that we're doing at the start of the countdowns. Maybe you guys have got more ideas about that. I actually prefer the smaller little ones about like how you can customize music playlists in the game. Or like yesterday, actually, one of the links that was in the description was about this guy that found out you can add a certain switch to a shortcut to the client that will then return the launcher and the downloader to the Guild Wars 1 style, which is really, really cool, and it actually opens up more options and stuff. Little interesting facts and stuff like that. And I actually prefer those kinds of intros. So Soulflame actually had the idea that maybe I should get people to just submit those, but really, I don't care that much. If you guys do have more ideas like that, make my life easier. If you want to share some of these things across the videos, do feel free to let me know. But yeah, just tell me if you want one of the keys, but please do only ask if you really want one, and I'll just give them away. Just be sure to check your YouTube personal messages, because that's where I'll be sending them to you from. So yeah, and thanks very much to Soulflame for that. So yeah, anyway, this blog post, oh man, this was awesome. I've hashed out a bit of a list here. As I say, you can read it for yourself in the description if you want to, but this is everything that's basically come out of it. Once again, they have said that the Asura and the Sylvari are once again going to be playable. Huzzah for that. So that does mean we get to play as their storylines, we get to see the explorable areas that they get to play in, we get to see their signature towns, and all that kind of good stuff that we've been seeing in a couple of the videos. In particular, there was a little bit from Ree Soseby and about how she was like very much spearheaded the design of the Sylvari in some regards, and how excited she was to see how people would react to them once they actually get to see them in game. Because Sylvari is one of those races everyone's always asking about and has got so many questions, and people just aren't sure because they are a kind of unique race-ish, I guess. And I guess they're kind of excited for us to actually finally get in game and get a real feel for what the Sylvari are like ourselves. I mean, we'll be able to play as them now, which should be really cool. They did talk also about the Asura stuff as well, the guy that designed all the architecture and stuff. I actually remember back during Asura Week a long time ago on the ArenaNet blog, this guy was talking as well about the architecture of the Asura and stuff, and it does sound really cool. They talked about Metrica Province as well as Ratasum, so I'm guessing Metrica Province is the explorable area that we'll be going to, early game stuff for the Asura. Speaking of other zones, they did say that a place called the Brisbane Wildlands would be available to us now, and this is the area, I guess, that you'll progress to as an Asura and a Sylvari. They say it's a level 17 to 20 zone, which is actually quite short. The other zones we saw had kind of larger level gaps over the place, so maybe it might be a little bit smaller than the other explorables we've seen so far. But this is essentially, it looks like it's kind of in the Maguma, really, but it's not actually Maguma Jungle, really, or Maguma Waste, because that's not actually, the full thing of it isn't available at the launch of Guild Wars 2. But we do have this new explorable area, level 17 to 20, as I say. It kind of connects the humans area to all the Tarnished Coast stuff, which should be quite cool. They talked about in there being a script city, and just gave some general information about the place. Oh, this bandit's about, there are inquests about, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't sound that interesting, but they did mention this place, Script Skritsburg, a Skrit city, and that seems kind of interesting. A long time ago, they were talking about how they had some event chains where one of their like generic examples a long time ago of events was how entire cities and stuff could be open to players and closed. And in fact, they did talk about a Skrit city that was supposedly like this. Whether this Skritsburg is that, whether that's how ArenaNet have eventually put that in the game or not, I don't actually know, but I'm going to be checking it out in game at the very least. That sounds really interesting, because that was one of the things that most got me excited about events originally, this idea that you'd have these massive sweeping changes that could have entire areas of the map totally locked out to you. Like a whole city could be really cool, and so far all we've seen of the Skrit as well is just kind of generic cavey looking areas, nothing that they've built for themselves. So if there's a whole city there, I wouldn't expect it to look as good as like the signature cities of the races, but if the Skrit have got some kind of city that's got some cool events and stuff around it, could be really interesting, so I'd like to check that out. Beyond the Brisbane Wildlands, we've actually got a mini game. One of the activities actually appears to be in game now. How cool is that? So keg brawling, this was one of the ones we have heard about for a long time. In fact, I think the first one really is the bar brawl, but the keg brawl apparently is now available. You'll find that in Holbrack. I find it quite funny that now finally we are seeing activities. I'd almost, dare I say, forgotten that there would be that much effort putting these activities in, but with the release of the game coming now, I suppose it shouldn't be such a surprise that at least one of these activities is now available in game. For a while, I think they were saying that it was going to be like 5 activities or mini games per race. I'm not sure whether only the keg brawl's in, because that's the only one that's finished, in which case I'd be a little bit worried about what's going to be happening at launch. But yeah, it sounds very cool, and they gave some information about it, kind of along the same lines as what we'd heard about it a long time ago before. But yeah, it's a mini-game, so that'll be cool to check out as well. Vistas, as we'd already heard, are now in the game. This new kind of form of point of interest. Really, all it sounded like in this blog was that these vistas were just kind of an excuse for the cinematics team to do stuff, if you ask me. They talk quite a lot about how their cinematics team's like really good and it does all this stuff, and they obviously did a lot for the trailers and certain in-game bits as well. But I wonder whether they kind of had this team that was finished on all the cutscenes and stuff, and then it was like, right, okay, now we're going to do vistas, and it sounds like they're just reasonably hidden stuff, not as obscurely hidden, or as I originally was under the impression they would be, but kind of slightly out of the way things that you'd go to, and then they'll give you like a sweeping view of the area. And in fact, they've shown a video of one of the Holbrack vistas on that blog, which is kind of cool. The vista itself is like a little map of Tyria, as far as I can see, which looks kind of weird, but yeah, so I guess we'll find these floating maps all around, and we can go over to them and activate them, and we'll get these nice like panoramic shots of all the areas, which is kind of cool. But vistas, we'd already heard of that. More exciting stuff though on the PvP side of things. The hints and rumours and stuff have been flying around for ages, and finally they have come out and said that there is something like this going on. There is a new PvP map called the Legacy of the Foefire, which has guild lords in it. So Guild Wars 1, if you're not aware at this point, the main competitive game type for that was guild versus guild, right? And the basic premise was you'd have to kill the opposing team's guild lord. You'd have to penetrate right into their guild hall and then kill the guild lord, and that was kind of what that whole competitive thing for Guild Wars 1 was based off of. Obviously Conquest is very different, and there were a lot of people that resented that and complained about that, and to this day still do. Well, apparently there is now a map, Legacy of the Foefire, which kind of has a mechanic very similar to what we saw in Guild Wars 1. We've heard developers and stuff in leaks that people have been talking about that I try to avoid mentioning obviously on here too much, but we've heard like developers mentioning internally, oh, we're going to play guild versus guild and stuff like that. It's not actually guild versus guild, that's not in Guild Wars 2, but each PvP map does have its own unique secondary objective. So in one map that's the trebuchet, in the other it's a couple of bosses that gives your team buffs, and in this one it's guild lords. So it's a generic conquest map by all means, but there are these guild lords hidden. I suppose they're quite well defended, and if you want to spend the time and energy to leave essentially I guess the main area of the map while capturing these points to go off and kill the guild lord, you get a load of points in return. I would have quite liked it if by killing the opposing team's guild lord it's like an instant win for your team. That would be kind of cool and add quite a bit of excitement, I think. I mean, that's one of the main criticisms Conquest got at the moment as far as like being an esport and stuff goes, is like you always generally know when it's going to end because the points will only go up at a certain rate. That could have added quite a bit of flavour, but apparently it just gives you a massive point bonus, which could be quite cool, and I suppose in some situations it will mean that the game suddenly ends if you manage to kill the guild lords. So it's quite cool. It's a definite throwback to Guild Wars 1, and I wonder whether if Guild Wars 2 does take off as kind of a very esporty thing, whether the community will just like center on in one map, and if they do that, which map will it be? Which secondary objective is best for making Guild Wars 2 a decent PvP game? Is it going to be this one, Legacy of the Foe Fire? It could be. Competitive PvP aside, also with World versus World, there's now apparently more solo stuff to do. This is quite funny because when World versus World was first kind of announced, it sounded to a lot of us like it was only kind of for big guilds and stuff, and ArenaNet were like, no, it's going to be possible to do stuff. There's going to be stuff to do if you are just a solo player. That's fine, don't worry about it. Then the first beta came out, and everyone was kind of like, it was very much my impression at the very least, and I know quite a few other people's, that it was kind of difficult to get stuff done or feel like you could do much if you were just playing solo, that really you were encouraged to just go in massive Zerg mobs with people. Then in Beta Weekend Event 2, they supposedly added these new stuff. They added the skill challenges, as you know, they added a few events around, but still, I didn't really get that impression that going around solo was too viable. Well, now with this beta, they've added something new. These are sentries. These are solitary NPC guards that are located on capture points that are worth points if you can take them out. That's a quote directly from the blog. So I guess that there's going to be smaller areas dotted around the map that you can take over, but they'll be guarded by certain enemies, and you can like claim it for your server or another person's server. They're supposedly hard to kill, but they are designed for solo players in mind. So that's quite cool. That's kind of, I guess, a nice way to help out and take territory, even if you're playing on your own, without having to be, with an army of other players. So that's very interesting. I think very cool for World versus World, because I felt like World versus World was lacking for that. Aside from that, that's all the main news stuff, but a few things you do want to know about the next beta. Make sure you're updating your clients already, by the way, because there's been a lot of updates and stuff. You don't want to get caught behind when the final beta actually goes live. But your characters are going to be wiped. All the data is going to be completely reset for the next Beta Weekend event, the final Beta Weekend event. The only thing that will stay are your contact list, so any friends you've made in-game will still be on your list, so you'll be able to meet up with them and stuff like that. So that's fine. But it's going to be wiped just as the game will once again be... I've seen some people asking this. Yes, your characters will be reset when the actual launch of the game comes. Definitely. So it's just going to be the same situation here with this next Beta Weekend event. In addition to that, we can now actually use the gem store. You can spend real world money on Guild Wars 2. This will be interesting to see how it affects the economy, I suppose. But that's going to be something people will be monitoring over the long term, I guess, more than anything else. But it is kind of cool to see that we can now actually spend real money in the gem store and do all of this stuff fully, and it's all up and working. Just so that you know, you're not going to be wasting money by doing this in the beta. Whatever gems you've bought in the beta, when the game actually launches, you will get those gems like a second time. So you'll be reimbursed with them. You won't get your money back, but you will have all the gems you bought originally in the beta. So in a weird way, it's like you can spend your gems twice. You can spend it, say, in the beta and see what some of the mini pets are like, and then in the actual launch of the game, you might decide, no, in fact, I want the pirate outfit, and you'll go for that instead. So that's kind of interesting. The gem store is now there. I'm not sure whether I'll use it personally. It depends. Now that the gem store is working, I wonder whether that means that server swaps are actually going to cost money now, and they're not going to give us any free gems to do that. That would be interesting to see if they do that. I think it would be a bit dickish, but I don't know. Maybe they will. Finally, I mentioned in yesterday's video that ArenaNet had set up a Twitch account and that they had done a single live stream, and I wondered what they were going to use it for in the future, and I was hoping they continue to use it. We're in luck, guys. Apparently, all the time over the next Beta Weekend event, they are going to be streaming literally the entire weekend. How cool is that? So you will actually be able to see the developers playing the game, and apparently they'll be giving out hints and tips and stuff like that. So if you can't get in for yourself for whatever reason, but you can be at a computer at the same time or on your mobile device, then you can see the developers playing, which should be cool. Maybe they'll show us some hidden stuff, some cool things. It'll be something that I kind of want to keep an eye on, because if they show something really cool, then I can be like, I'll make a video of that. But yeah, so they'll be streaming the entire time. You'll definitely want to check that out. There'll be another link to their Twitch account down below. I'm curious now, once the launch of the games come out, is streaming going to be a really regular thing for them? They do seem like they're actually going to go with it, since they're doing this for the Beta Weekend event. Very cool. But yeah, there you go. That's the Great Guild Wars 2 countdown for today. Just to recap, if you want one of these beta keys, I've got 25 of them. You don't need to do anything special. Just ask me for one of them. It will probably be like first come, first serve. And yeah, generally, if you do have anything on the same note, though, about the intros, you can think of some more interesting little things than these kind of large sweeping features we already know about, let me know, and we can take it from there as well. But that doesn't have to be anything to do with the beta keys. I'll see you guys on the next episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and also I hope you enjoyed the server thing. It is a behemoth of a video. It really is, and that's only part 1 of 2, to be honest with you. But yeah, so thanks very much, guys. I'll see you next time.